So Mama Mercy ended by saying she wanted to get politics out of carbon. Unfortunately, in the United States, we have not been able to do that very effectively. So she was really talking at the ground level about how REDD Plus operates. I'm unfortunately going to have to go a little bit higher to about 30,000 foot view and kind of reiterate why climate change is something that we at EPA care about and what we're doing about it, and then talk a little bit about what the U.S. government role has been on REDD Plus generally. So today, Happy Earth Day. Yeah. I'm sure, hopefully you all knew it was Earth Day. I just came from a big rally in front of our office, and you know, there are a lot of very passionate people, very angry about lots of different things. And actually one of them was this, ironically. You know, they actually had a demand that said, you should not be pushing REDD credits. They had no idea that I was coming to this, otherwise I probably never would have got here. But what it does tell me is the importance, while someone like Mama Mercy's come all this way, you said this was the furthest you've traveled, this is a long way from Kenya, making sure that the message gets out. That really is an important thing, because these projects make sense on the ground. They make sense in terms of how we can get carbon offsets. But if people just hear REDD Plus, you guys probably in this community have dealt with that challenge. You need to think about how you message to vocal advocacy communities in this country, because ultimately they are very forceful in communicating with us, and we need to have you in this room explain in an articulate fashion what the role is, and what better advocate than someone who's doing it so effectively on the ground. So you all know, but I think it's worth restating the global climate crisis that we have, and the impacts of it are real. Our goal at the Environmental Protection Agency is to protect human health and the environment, and climate change, as the President has restated many times recently, is an important it's one of the 3 top administration priorities for the second term. We know that the Earth's average temperature has increased by about 1.4 degrees over the past century, and that it's estimated to get to between 2 and 11 degrees increase over the next 100 years. Small changes in the average temperature of the planet can translate into large and potentially dangerous shifts in climate and weather. The risk to public health and the environment from climate changes is substantial and far-reaching. A warming climate brings changes to our water supplies, agriculture, power and transportation systems, the natural environment, and even our own health and safety. Carbon pollution is leading to more frequent and intense heat waves. You may not know this, many of you are from other places, but it's not normally this warm here in April. Who knows what the reason for that is, but it's been incredibly warm, and it will no doubt get warmer this year. Those heat waves lead to increased mortality, especially among vulnerable populations. Climate change can lead to increased ozone pollution, including large population areas that already have unhealthy ozone levels. Both Los Angeles and the San Joaquin Valley have some of the worst air quality in the United States. Ozone can increase the frequency of asthma attacks and other respiratory-related illnesses. My main goal is at EPA and as regional administrator is to make that connection for people. If it's a problem very far away, no one really understands it, it's not personalized, and if it's a problem only of things like increased heat, people don't get it. The minute you talk about human health, people understand climate change, and we need to think about how we connect this message to human health in a state like California. Scientists warn that carbon pollution and resulting climate change are expected to lead to more intense hurricane storms, heavier and more frequent flooding, increased drought, and more severe wildfires. Some of these impacts are already being observed. Changes in temperature, precipitation patterns, and extreme events can enhance the spread of some waterborne and pest-related disease. Ocean acidification, sea level rise, and increased storm surge harm agriculture and forests, can lead to species extinction and ecosystem damage resulting from climate change, can exacerbate global problems such as food security and water availability. Carbon dioxide can stay in the atmosphere for nearly a century, so the Earth will continue to warm in coming decades. The warmer it gets, the greater the risk for more severe changes to the climate and the Earth system. As I mentioned in the 2013 State of the Union, the President said that we need to take action now to combat climate change. Today, on Earth Day, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is expanding the conversation on climate change through public engagement and education on the importance of continuing to protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we live on. Nationally, EPA has been taking a number of steps to address the challenge of climate change. In 2009, after considering extensive scientific evidence, EPA found that greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. EPA is reducing greenhouse gas emissions through using our regulatory authority through the Clean Air Act and developing strong and effective partnerships to achieve additional reductions. EPA is developing common sense regulatory initiatives focusing on the largest source categories. For example, EPA's passenger vehicle greenhouse gas rule will eliminate 6 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas pollution over the life of the program. That's more than the total amount of carbon dioxide emitted in the US in 2010. It will bring the vehicle miles of an average vehicle from about 23 to 54.5 in the next 10 years. In March 2012, we announced the first ever carbon pollution standards for future fossil fuel power plants. Power plants account in the United States for approximately 40% of our carbon emissions and represent the single largest source of industrial greenhouse gas emissions in our country. The proposed standard would ensure that future power plants use modern technology to limit carbon pollution, and we expect very soon to be able to release that standard. Just to show you the intensity of the public interest in that rule, we received 2.7 million comments and are working to finalize that rule. We are also looking internally to look at our own emissions from energy use and fuel consumption, and we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 25% over the next years. I also had the opportunity, when I first got to know these gentlemen, to work for the city of San Francisco, and the city at the local level cares about climate change and cares about the issues we're talking about today. We were one of the first cities to set a goal of 20% reduction below 1990 levels by 2010, and the city achieved that. They have done many things to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, from going to zero waste to requiring LEED Gold buildings. So it's not just at the state or federal level, local level in the United States is where much of the action is happening. We are committed to work internationally with our partners. Lisa Jackson, the former EPA administrator, and Hillary Clinton joined together with a number of partners to launch the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, which was a huge initiative that many families throughout the world have benefited from. Nearly 2 million deaths a year attributed for emissions, attributed to those emissions from cook stoves, as well as greenhouse gas emissions, mainly from black carbon. We pledged $54 million to do this initiative, and EPA has contributed about $6 million already towards that. EPA and the U.S. government recognize that protection and restoration of the world's forests are critical to combating climate change. As you all know, deforestation is responsible for up to 17% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. When these forests are conserved, restored, and managed sustainably, they can effectively remove and store carbon from the atmosphere. At the Copenhagen Climate Summit, which I know was a frustration to many, the Obama administration dedicated $1 billion to help countries slow, halt, and eventually reverse deforestation, predominantly through REDD+ activities. A variety of U.S. agencies are working to help countries get ready for REDD+ actions, including USAID, as well as technical agencies which are collaborating with developing countries to share the best U.S. science, technology, and expertise through global, regional, and bilateral initiatives. The United States provides multilateral funding to support all three phases of REDD+, from readiness through strategy implementation to payment for results. The U.S. funds both the Readiness Fund of the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, which supports 36 developing countries in preparing strategies to program, as well as engage stakeholders to advance REDD+. At the first Forest Investment Program, which supports efforts to strengthen forest governance and institutional capacity, as well as measures to reduce drivers of deforestation outside the forest sector in 8 countries. The U.S. also funds the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility Carbon Fund to pilot an international funds-based system that will reward progress made in reducing deforestation and the associated emissions. Together, these programs have contributed to advancing global knowledge and technical approaches to REDD+, as well as supporting the strategies and programs that will lead to increased forest protection, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and many other benefits provided by healthy, intact forests. Since 2010, REDD+ assistance has been scaled up substantially to support the 3 U.S. objectives of REDD architecture, REDD+ readiness, and REDD+ demonstration. In 2010, the first year of U.S. REDD+ funding, we contributed $249 million to REDD+ activities around the world. In 2011, we significantly increased the scale and contributed $362 million to REDD+ activities, and this year our numbers are at about $276 million. As we expect, these estimates will be revised upwards as more data becomes available. Our 13 funds are still being finalized. As you may know, budget is not moving super quickly. So we will get to the place of committing and expending more than $1 billion to REDD+ assistance in the near future. We at EPA are contributing to REDD+ through working with USAID to help countries develop an accurate and complete greenhouse gas inventory. An important first step for countries to take to help identify opportunities for managing their greenhouse gas emissions. This capacity building work enhances a country's ability to estimate reduced emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and enhance sequestration associated with REDD+ activities. Climate change is amongst our greatest global challenges, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions is essential to the long-term protection of public health on our planet. Continuing to partner with developing countries and organizations to reduce and reverse global deforestation through REDD+ is a step towards solving our collective climate challenges. I'm glad to see so many of you here today dedicated to this important initiative, sharing successes and developing strategies to work across borders and combat global warming. Thank you.